Good morning, Bill.
Hey, morning, Bill.
How are you, sir?
Good. I'm just honored to be on the same show as such a huge star.
Huge star.
Jimmy Neutron, right?
Jimmy Neutron in the house, everybody.
Yeah.
Woo! Let me make it bigger.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
man.
it's getting to the point now, though, like it's getting so long that it's starting to lay down.
A little bit. Yeah.
Straight out.
Yeah. Yesterday, I went to go run an errand, and then I came back and was like washing my hands, was about to sit down and eat, and I was like, I kind of like my hair for like the first time ever in history, right? Like I've never been a huge fan of like my hair or the various, like I think all of 3 styles I've worn it as, for my entire life. So
yeah,
it's odd.
It's a good place to start.
Man, how was school yesterday, Bill?
It's good. It's good. We actually had a policy debate yesterday, which is one of the more exciting things of homeschool. They did their first official run through of should they kill the electoral college and replace it with popular vote. And so,
how did that go?
Good, and it was just the first run through, and there's 4 different groups that gets to do it. Jackson, my son, gets his turn next week, so that'll be fun. Get to watch him do it, and then you don't vote or you only give feedback on how they did on the structure, but it was cool to hear all the. Man, it's one of those things where you just don't really understand how old your kids are until things like those go in place, and you hear a 9th grader bring up evidence for something that you thought you were against that's really good, and you're like, oh, interesting. Young 14-year-olds, tell me more. Like, oh man, dude, this is a whole adult right here. What's going on? So it was good. It was good.
Good morning, Michelle.
Michelle.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alice is not 14, but there are days where she brings up a point, and I'm just like, I have no rejoinder for that, right?
No
you win this exchange.
Yes,
man.
Yeah, so it was fun. So, it was good. I got over lunch. I did a little work, which is fine because I always leave that window in case something pops up.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't tough stuff, so that was good. And then after hours, I just read the whole time, so I didn't even work after school yesterday.
What are you reading?
I am reading the last book of Rick Riordan's series. He's actually switching to something completely different now. The last of his Apollo books drops last week, and we paid for a Zoom call with him, and we got a signed copy. So they shipped it to us before it dropped, and then the day it dropped, we got to watch a Zoom call and do like a Q&A with him and stuff. And
okay,
so so I'm about 80% done.
Man, I don't know about these books or this author at all.
Man! Yes! He is a mythology author for kids, but it's like middle to high school age kids.
Okay,
so young. Good writing. It's me and Jackson. Me and Jackson started it when he was probably Alice's age, probably. And he did Percy Jackson. He wrote the Percy Jackson books.
Oh, okay.
It turned into a movie that bombed because he wasn't involved. And so anyway, he has Egyptian gods, he has Greek gods, he has Roman gods, he has all sorts of stuff, and they are just so good. They're so fun. They're so good because there's so much good tongue-in-cheek humor and really clever story arcs. And it gives you new takes on demigods, like you hear about all the Greek gods and Roman gods, and anyway, it's a lot of fun. So Apollo was his last series, and
interesting.
Now he's switching to what's he switching to? Irish folk gods.
Okay. Good morning, Ann. It's good to see you.
Hey, Ann. How's it going?
So it's funny because like I kind of look down on like a lot of the young adult stuff. Melissa also did as well when she was working in the bookstore for early on, and then I read the Harry Potters and I was like, well, this is young adult and this stuff is good. And then I read the Mockingjay books, and those get pretty dark towards the end. I was like, holy crap! Like I didn't realize that this is young adult. And then I read the Pierce Brown books. Yeah, and those were solid, and I think that counts as well. There's some good stuff in there.
39 Clues is another series. It's a young adult book, but they're written really well. It's all the Rick Riordan stuff, and it's all the Greek guys. It's Riordan, so it's like my last name Jordan, just with an RI on the front.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting. But if you look up Percy Jackson, the books, you'll see it, and then they'll just, and you'll see 25 books.
All of them.
Some of my favorite books, though, really, honestly, it's fun. Right? Maybe that says something about me, but
I mean,
I like.
Did you like to read books? There are worse things.
Yes,
man. So, deal blew up yesterday. Completely blew up.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was, huh?
To the floor? Like?
Oh yeah. So we were talking about equity. We were kind of talking about one level, and then that level was deemed as too high. So then we were looking at another level, and then that level was deemed as too high. And now they're saying, well, no equity at all. You guys can just come in and sell this thing if you want to. And then we might talk about equity later on. I'm like, oh no, we're not. This isn't how this is going to work. So I was like, guys, cool. Like this all changed over 3 days, right? And so now the guy who's running the project is like, well, I'm not sure where you guys got equity. And it's like, well, because every phone call we've had, there's been a discussion about equity, and you've been on every one of these calls, and you just now have a problem with it. So this is very interesting. So we were going to handle all sales, all onboarding, and support, because they have a big growth goal, and it's like, well, we can hit that goal, but not if we're not handling onboarding and support, the right ways. You'll just have like a ton of churn. And so we wanted to own all of it, and they were like, yeah, okay. But the top end that we asked for as far as the equity goes was 10%, and they were like, yeah, no. And so then they were like, oh, how about 5 to 7, and then it was 5, and then it was nothing. So I'm like, okay, guys, we'll take our tours and go home, kind of deal. So
yeah.
Because I was kind of stunned about it, and so then I went to go look at AngelList, which if you're looking for a sales job, you should go check out AngelList, because it's got all these startups and different things like this. And there are tons of positions on there that are offering a base and commission up to like 2 to 3%, right? So we're asking not for a base and stuff like this. So largely, I just think that the expectations are off, and that's totally fine, right? I mean, it's his company; he gets to do what he wants with it. So, but we're currently out of that, which is totally fine. And then the other day, when I was looking to try to understand positioning about how this could help media buyers, I hopped into Pep's group, Pep Laja, right, over at Conversion XL. So hopped into his Facebook group. He's got a big group in there, and I warmed myself up. I was like, hey, I've been to this conference once a couple of years ago. I've been focused on this stuff, but I have a product, would like to get some feedback. And so then I posted, what's the hardest part about being a media buyer for e-com? And I got a couple of responses, and I was like, cool, can we go to DEM so I can ask you more about it? And this guy was like, no way, man, I knew this was fake. I knew you were going to sell me something, and I was just like, huh? Like you just know this to be true. And I was like, well, didn't really have anything to sell you, was honestly trying to get some information about the positioning. Let's see, what's the link for the sales jobs, John? Can you leave it here, please? I can. 1 second, Ann. So I was like, guys, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I did have some questions. And then, so I would post, my thoughts, and then he would gif, trolling posts and stuff like this. And so then I was like, honestly, just trying to get some positioning information about this. And he goes, yeah, John, I believe you. Right. And man, I do not like being called a liar. So I got a little hot, and was like, but it was weird, right? Because I had this moment of okay, I can take the high road, or I can take the low road. And I was like, man, I don't have to be one of these broy marketer guys with an engagement post. I'm an actual salesperson. If I have something to pitch you, I will ask for your permission to do it. I was like, I actually have a whole show talking about why this is so important in the world of sales. So if I have to hide behind an engagement post and do the, I'm just networking, man, whenever I try to sell you something, I need to hang the whole thing up. Right. And I was like, no reason for you to know that, but I don't really enjoy being called a liar. And then dude deleted the whole thread after that. I was like, okay, that's one way. So yeah, that's true. I thought that was weird. And I had lots of ego opportunities yesterday, I guess.
Okay.
Just, it would have been super easy. There you go, Ann. I'm putting it in the chat right now. Angelus.com. They have roles for marketing. They have roles for sales. There's a lot of them are very early stage startup. You can also filter by like different levels of funding. So if you want pre-funding, if you want post-seed round, all of this stuff, it's a really, really great website. You can also network and do some cool things with it. So hope that helps people. I'm gonna do this fancy thing that we can do now and put it right here on the boom. Dang, right. We're fancy. Thanks, StreamYard, for working and allowing us to put cool links on here. You're welcome, man. So yeah, but it was weird because yesterday, between this deal kind of becoming no longer a thing, right? It would have been super easy to get like too wrapped up ego into that. And really, I would say maybe a year ago, if this had happened and we'd gotten this close and then it had fallen away, I think I would have been in pretty rough mental state. But all the journaling and last Sunday, actually, in my journaling session, I was writing down, hey, what happens if this doesn't go the way I want it to? Right?
I was about to ask, what do you think? What do you think was foundational in the journaling? I guess because I'm trying to get you to share a little bit about what about journaling has helped you that other people could pick up, you think, in a situation like this to help you set this down. Not politely, it's not the right word, but like gingerly, like, okay, cool, let's just set this down.
So for a long time, one of the big things about Stoicism, right, is that that we spend and waste a lot of time on things that we don't actually have any control over, right? I can't control who gets voted in the office. I can't control how the media does certain things. I can't control. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can't control, right? So if you're only putting energy and focus into things that you cannot control, you're not saving any focus and effort for things that you can control. And man, I have been the worrier. I've been the overthinker for the majority of my life. And when I first found Stoicism and was kind of like reading about this idea, I was like, man, this is kind of BS, right? Because like I had all the same misunderstandings about like Stoicism, and because I'm like, well, Stoicism means that you're just unfeeling, and so and that's not it at all. It's just about making sure that you're not feeling for things that don't make sense. So one of the affirmations that I write in my journal every day, right, in my morning session, is I only spend time and energy on things I can control, right? And I've been writing that for months now, and that then makes it easier to sit down in these moments of like, have I done everything I can do in this moment? Yes. Okay, great. And then after that, you just kind of got to like send it off. And there are deals where I have a harder time with that, and there are deals that I have a better time. But I feel like each deal is a rep in getting to practice that. And so because I get into lots of conversations, and many of them are not qualified and stuff like this, it's kind of bolstered that mindset.
So is it an exercise in not feeling, or is it an exercise of going, I don't need to feel that for this next?
Man, so what's really interesting to me is the stuff, so this might be a situation to where like when you see a car that you like on the road, or you pick out a new car that you want to buy eventually, and then you start seeing it everywhere on the road.
Yeah.
It could be this. But a couple of years ago, I read, I think it's called Essentialism, Greg McKeown. Okay. I'm not exactly sure how to say it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But really, really, really outstanding book, because it really cemented the idea that time, and this gets talked about so much, but like we don't have unlimited time. It's not a renewable resource. So when you say yes to something, you were saying no to something else that could be happening at that time. And the way that he worded that in the book was like hit me square in the face, right? If I open up my calendar too much and I do too much networking, then that means that my like work for clients and my project work has got to be pushed to later in the day. And then that means that my family time starts later in the day. And this all starts with this thing way over here of too much networking, right? And not managing that time.
All right.
So I read that, and that's been kind of like proliferating around. And then all the journaling and all the stoicism stuff. And then you let me borrow the Obviously Awesome book, right? And it's in that book, it talks about like, hey, positioning is drawing your line in the sand and saying that you are these things, but you're also saying what you're not, right? And I read that again, and I was like, man, like it's all about how well can your daily decisions interact with your intentions and your goals.
Yeah.
Right. Because like if I have a big goal, right, whatever it is, and I'm not saying yes to things that move me towards that goal because I'm saying yes to other things because they're easy or nice or something else like this, then the only person I have to blame for not working towards my progress is myself. Right. And honestly, that's where a lot of this stuff came into play. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because we had a guest on Friday and then we talked about having our goals for Monday, and then, that didn't really happen. And so it has been really interesting this week to not have a weird BIL bet, right? Of like things that I'm pushing towards and stuff like this. And I feel myself being like, oh yeah, this is going to be an easy week and everything else like this. It's been really, really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I know I had to set one for myself. I could not. My brain wouldn't let me do it.
It's kind of uncomfortable now, which is kind of a good thing, but
it is a good thing. So I did for myself, which we just never got. Like yesterday, we were sprinting to the end of the show, and the day before you had to leave at 8, so we were sprinting, which is the Tuesday, and then the Monday was when we talked about it. So we just haven't had a chance to talk about it. But I set myself the 100 whatchamacallit, up downs. What do you call them?
Burpees.
100 burpees if I didn't reach my goal this week. For myself, I just wrote it on my board over there. But you're right. I love that whole line of thinking. And I think when I first started the 30-day group a while back, it was half as a lead generating idea that was like, hey, let's get people in here. But it's turned more into, and the other half of it was, I know these concepts that you just talked about. I believe in them. I preach them. I'm about them, except that I don't have enough accountability to always be as consistent on them as I want to be. And that's partially why we started the show too, right? With selfishly, we want this to happen. But, I just wanted more. I wanted more check-ins, not necessarily more accountability, because this is plenty of accountability, but more daily type check-in type stuff. Because I think at the end of the day, execution is what most of us are lacking. Mindset's the first thing. You got to get over your mindset and you figure that out. But once you get that, I think the second big stone, if you will, is execution. And so that's why you have that spreadsheet, right? It's partially why you've built that spreadsheet, is because you need to know you're executing on it, right?
What a great segue, Jake. It's like we planned that, but honestly, guys, we didn't.
We're just
Hold on a second. Let me show you, because I just got it back from my team. And it looks sick. So check this out. You guys can see this there. So what I've done is I've broken this into the things that we focus on, right? Work. This should say, okay, hold on one second. So a little bit of formatting left to do. But since Jake and I focus on kind of like 3 main categories, we have our self-care. I'm not sure why that's doubled. But then work-specific stuff, and then relationships. Because even if you're not a parent or like in like a long-term relationship, you're still networking, hopefully, right? Reaching out to people so that way the relationships are warm.
And like just regular friendships too. Need to be nurtured.
And then check this out. So these numbers all like aggregate up here at the top, and then we can click on the annual button over here, and then we can have a running total. And it pulls all the information up there, your percent of greatness, how many yeses, how many nos, how many total opportunities. So that way you're never going to lie to yourself about the activities that are really important to you. I'm so stoked about this thing. I'm very, very, very excited about it. So,
me too.
If you would like this and you're watching, please message me, message Bill. Yeah, we'll get you one. I don't want anything for it. I just want you to track the things that are important to you, right?
Yep.
But yeah, super stupid excited about this. Yeah, very excited. So
yes, C. John is giggling like a schoolboy.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yep, that's awesome.
So yeah, interesting day, interesting kind of week, I guess. I went from having like this big, huge looming project because now the guys think that since this project isn't going to work, there was like a lot of projects kind of like connected to that and under that umbrella that they don't think that we're going to get any access to. And I'm like, if we don't,
Probably.
we don't.
Because totally that's how people work, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, look at that. Chris, what's up, man?
Would be happy to send it to you, sir. And thanks for checking out the show. But yeah, so now a little bit of self-imposed maybe scramble to get like the networking kind of spooled back up. Like there'll be other opportunities, right? But you know, it's weird. As I was writing last night, I was like, is it weird that I'm this detached from it? You know, like I put in all this work to make sure that I'm not too like emotionally attached to things that I can't actually impact. And then whenever it happens, I'm like, is this weird?
Yeah, it's like one of your first big accomplishments of like, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's right?
I've never done this before. Was it right?
Right. Well, that's why I was asking if the practice is of removing detachment, like removing emotion, or is it just like, because I've read a lot of stuff over the years where it's like, you know, when you're meditating and when you're first learning how to do it, one of the words that a lot of like very beginner people use is next. Mm-hmm. Like you get all these thoughts rushing in when you're trying to settle into your meditation, and you have the thoughts and you just go, okay, next, because you have to tell your brain what to do with it. So if it becomes a practice in that, or if it's stoicism, because I just haven't read that much about stoicism to know, no, stop feeling, which I don't think that's what it's saying. Because when I heard Ryan Holiday, like, no, it's not that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's weird that that's the view once you like really dig into it. Actually, you can absolutely have a link. I'll send it to you after this is over. But it's just about being intentional with how you because like this is all energy, right? If I'm super stressed out about this deal not closing, even though I feel like I did everything I could to put us in the best position to win, then I have to be okay with that amount of work, and then I kind of have to let it go, which is
really interesting, because it's like if you do feel like you put forth your very best effort each day that you were working on it, and it doesn't work, you have to say, I believe myself.
Yeah,
I did my very best. And if you believe yourself, then you won't spend more energy on it because you did your very best. I talked to somebody about that said, and that's where I got this thought, was that if you tell yourself you did your very best and you continue to have anxiety over it and pine over it, then you're telling yourself subconsciously that you don't believe what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's really interesting, because I've been talking to several people too about energy recently. So this conversation is really timely too, because time and energy are linked.
There are so many, right? And this is the mental side of it that becomes like so important, right? The peak performance stuff is the same, whether it's in tennis, from the inner game of tennis, whether it's poker, which is where I first started to get really into it, whether it's in kung fu. You know, there's always a mental side of things, right? And you know, you can be really, really talented and gifted at something, but if your mindset sucks, you're not going to perform at the level that you could. And watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, power shirt, by the way, it kind of was reinforcing all of that to me. Like how do you? The only way that you can take that many shots, right, and miss and still feel the confidence of I want the ball, right, in those do or die times, is by knowing that you're putting every effort into it. So then you can be like, well, it just didn't go my way, right? I can remember the very first time that I had a sales call where I got off the call, the deal was closed, and we closed it in one call, and I was like, man, like that's too easy. Like where is this thing going to fall apart? Yeah. And it was like I'm thinking about it, and I'm like going over it in my head, and I was like, wait a minute, like I just followed the process, and it was one of those that like fit very well into the process, right? So I didn't have to work very hard. And I can remember times in poker and kung fu where when I just changed my mindset a little bit, things become almost so easy that I then have to question why I would ever do it the other way. It's all tied to what bogs you down.
Yeah, last week we were talking to a client about running paid ads for $100 a day for a week or something like that, just to get data, just to get feedback to say, is this an offer that people actually want? And they were like, we don't want to do paid. Like, we're not ready for that. I said, the point is that you're running towards repetitions. Like, you've got to get to repetitions quickly so that you understand what you have. And because when you run repetitions, then you can actually know what you have and then turn around and use it in the places you want. So kind of the same idea, right? Is looking towards the process and knowing that the process is what gets you to the results.
Yeah. But the other, so I've implemented some other systems this year, right? Like my own kind of version of, the BIL bet in itself is kind of a productivity system that we've kind of cobbled together. I use a version of Getting Things Done, which has got like a universal inbox, right? And then I filter it out and I delegate and I schedule and stuff like that from there. But if at any point you don't trust that system, you go the other way, and then that breaks it. So then it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And this is really important in the CRM work that I do with people, because they're like, well, this thing isn't helping me close deals. Well, how much are you using it?
Right.
Okay. When you're looking through the deals that you've won and lost recently, what are the commonalities there? Well, okay, so you're not really using it. Right. So you have to build the system in a way that you can trust it, because if you don't trust it, you won't use it, and then it is all for naught. So
yeah, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about the two big kind of stones, which is there's mindset and there's execution. You can't have one without the other and expect it to keep working.
Absolutely. Awesome. What do you got today, Jake? I have an 8:15. So
okay. Well then, let's see. I've got a couple client calls. I've got to catch up with Kira Day. Kira, if you got out there, shout out to her. She's the 10 Tips 10 Days co-founder. We're going to catch up. And then if you're not doing 10 Tips 10 Days, by the way, go head over to LinkedIn and just type in the hashtag number 10 tips, number 10 days, 10 tips, 10 days hashtag. Go check it out. It's a great way to get your stuff out there for free. So I'm doing a lot of that today too.
Awesome. I'm going to have a quick check-in call with Hayden Blackburn to talk about this deal, just to make sure that, because like he's way more into that zone than I am, because I could have been asking for too much. I'm open to that. Then we got Sales Lab role plays starting at 9 a.m. And then I have a call with Miss Stevie Dawn, who guested on last Friday's show. Talk about her coaching me a little bit on some public speaking stuff. Just kind of building the path. I have a call with the mastermind group, and then have a call with Gary, who's my cold email guy, and then I think that's it. Feels like a lot, but when you look at it on my calendar, it's not as bad as you think it is. And then tonight at 6 p.m. we're doing sales throwdown episodes. So we're going to try to do 3, get those in the can, so we've got some room. So going to be a good day.
Awesome. Cool, man. All right. Well, I'll hold you.
Awesome, man. Have a great day, Bill. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you.
Thanks, guys. Link will be I'll either send it to you if you message me, or we'll have a Bitly link here tomorrow, so that way it's really easy to kind of just type it in and go to it, because the docs.google.com is going to be a little hard to share on one screen. But thanks, guys. Have a great day.